what should Britain do if the French invade our waters in a no-deal scenario?
Let's talk about post-Brexit Britain.
Do we have enough capacity in our Coast Guard and our Navy to defend our ships?
Can I just interrupt this broadcast to say I've just bumped into one of my friends in the House of Commons, Adam of 3-8, and he wants to say,
hello there. And thank you very much indeed for what you're doing. Really, really appreciate it. Because we must remember never to forget the dedication and the sacrifice that people have made, and particularly in modern days where some of these things can be challenged.
Hello everyone, for the third time today. This is our third video of the day. This is a special one because, as you know, Remembrance Day is now over. The whole, obviously, British Royal Legion have been working really hard to raise money for the Poppy Appeal campaign, and it's been quite difficult for them because of the social distancing measures and the lockdown restrictions. This is why about a week ago we came up with an idea, Lacey and I on this channel, to do a live stream to raise money for the Royal Legion, and I'm absolutely shocked in a very good way and humbled that we managed to actually raise £1,727.22 for the charity. Thank you again to everyone who donated, for those of you who obviously joined the live stream, but also the others who couldn't make it but they still donated via PayPal. This was obviously a massive, long episode. I think it was about an hour, just over an hour I think. But what I've decided to do is, because obviously, especially those of you who still donated but couldn't make it, but everyone else as well, I'm going to show you the best bits, the highlights of that live stream show, because obviously we had a number of guests with us. We had Steve Baker MP, Tom Harwood from Guido Fawkes, Emily Hudson, the Conservative activist, and obviously Lacey was there to moderate the actual show.
well, I'm absolutely delighted to be here. Thanks very much for joining us. I mean, Remembrance Day is so important. The Poppy Appeal is so important. Got lots of veterans to look after of all ages. Speaking of somebody who's ex-Air Force, married to somebody who's ex-Air Force. Oh, and in fact, there's a Chinook going over, which hopefully you can hear. Hang on. Fantastic. Absolutely on cue for the ex-Air Force officer.
Absolutely. No, thank you for having me on. I think it's moments like these when we're seeing a peculiar time for the state of our freedom, but it is so important to remember those who gave their lives in many cases to defend that freedom, and whatever state it is now. I think it really reminds us how important that was and that sacrifice.
Yeah, thank you so much, Maya, for setting this up. I think it's such a good idea. I mean, me and Tom were just actually talking about this before the live stream started, how difficult this year it is to actually get your hands on a poppy. Obviously, due to social distancing, all of those sorts of things. So, of course, the Poppy Appeal is missing out on a lot of donations that they'd get from loose coins, because, of course, we're heading into a cashless society at the moment.
How would you effectively counter what people like Femi are saying against red poppies? Every year, the same debate comes up, and we seem to be losing the battle to the liberal left. Mark, do you want to kick that one off?
Yeah, it is interesting because this keeps coming up every year, and it's getting worse. It feels like it's getting worse because of social media, and somehow the so-called liberal left they're getting a lot of activists. Like they got Femi now, they got Ash Sarkar and a number of others. It's no longer your kind of classic Alistair Campbell's.
I don't know if you remember a couple of years ago, Aaron Bastani, who's one of the people that founded that Novara media operation that also produced Ash Sarkar and a number of others. Kicked up a whole big fuss attacking the Royal British Legion, attacking the Poppy, being really quite vicious in his language. And of course, it got him a whole load of media spots because of it. It's really quite clear why they're doing it. It's to sort of make a noise, to put themselves out there.
Do you think we should have made an exemption and had a full Remembrance Sunday service this year?
Who wants to go first?
Yes, I do. I told the Daily Mail weeks ago I will die of shame if we cancel Remembrance Sunday.
Let's talk about post-Brexit Britain.
Look, it does feel like everything is a bit gloom and doom at the moment, but post-Brexit Britain is certainly something we can be optimistic for. I am so excited for all the innovation it's going to bring, and as Steve's already mentioned, we've already got a lot of trade deals secured. Despite a lot of Remainers saying we would not, we're already overcoming the expectations. I think also there's just the idea of sovereignty, really. You know, having control over our borders, control, hopefully, over our fishing waters as well. And a bit more of a niche one that I just wanted to give a mention to, because I think this is just a nice little extra, I guess, but also the removal of the tampon tax. Very niche, but I think that's very important that finally menstrual products are being seen as essential items, which is a big...
I tell you what, all the battles that we had over it, it's not a niche subject, it's a really big subject. Definitely about half the population really care about it. And I fought to abolish the tampon tax. It's definitely got to be something we do.
What should Britain do if the French invade our waters in a no-deal scenario?
Yeah, well, I've done a bit of reporting on this actually, because sadly for the government, this wasn't something that helped them. But we at Guido were leaked some Brexit planning documents for a reasonable worst case scenario, which includes a whole page signed off by a minister on what could go wrong with regards to fish, and it does cover the idea that once we have sort of sovereign waters of our own, French fishermen might come in and there might be scraps. We've actually seen a few scraps with boats in the not too distant past over who's fishing where and whatnot. And the question that the planning document was raising was, do we have enough capacity in our Coast Guard and our Navy to defend our ships? And that is a real question, I think.
Mayor, I've got a problem. Houston, I have a problem. There's a division in the House of Commons, and I've got to go and vote.
Oh no! Okay. We are losing Steve Baker.
What I'll do is, how long have we got? How much longer are we live?
We have half an hour.
Right. What I'll do is I'll take my headset and my phone. I'll go and vote, and then I'll join again. Okay?
That's
is that
fine.
All right?
Yeah, no worries. Yeah, just leave the screen.
Sorry, everyone.
All right. Trump
One
said
second,
he's
I've got to turn my hair straighteners off. I've just realised I've been the whole time. Great, I love that for student accommodation.
Brilliant.
Not quite as important as voting.
I was just going to say,
Yeah.
the first guest who had the problem was a real problem.
Yeah, well, in 2000, what happened was Florida came down to only a couple of hundred votes, so there was a recount, and then the litigation that happened subsequently was which areas do you recount and which areas don't you? We're not yet at that stage in this election. We're still on the first count, and there are still over 3 million votes, or that was an hour ago, it's probably slightly less now, but there are still potentially millions of votes more to be counted. For some reason, Pennsylvania seem absolutely abysmal at counting their votes. They've only done about 3/4, and they've had days. They need to take some lessons from the people in Sunderland, I think. But there are a few states that are still counting in, of course, this unprecedented number of postal ballots, and that will take time. And ultimately, litigation would only really happen if recounts were demanded, and some states have particular thresholds to meet. I mean, the results have to be within a certain percentage of one another for a recount to be able to be demanded by a candidate.
But there is two things I think we can all kind of agree on. Number one, thank goodness for British politics. It's just so much nicer at this point having a result. And we had all the stories last night of, people counting votes and then going home for a nap and all sorts. The people in Sunderland, like Tom mentioned, could never imagine of doing that. They're working all night, running around a sweaty sports hall, doing their bit. So yeah, I've definitely seen the light in British politics from this experience. But secondly, the pollsters cannot be trusted. Just how on earth did they get this so wrong? They were just millions and millions off the mark.
Can I just interrupt this broadcast to say I've just bumped into one of my friends in the House of Commons, Adam of Free 8, and he wants to say...
Hello there. And thank you very much indeed for what you're doing. Really, really appreciated. Because we must remember never to forget the dedication and the sacrifice that people have made, and particularly in modern days where some of these things can be challenged. And I'm just delighted at the work you're doing. So thanks very much indeed.
Thank you very much, Adam. Thank you.
Thanks, Adam. Great man. Thanks a lot. See you later.
Brilliant. Yeah, we got MPs gate crashing us. Has he paid for the entry fee? No, probably not.
Yeah.
Have you voted? Brilliant. Okay. So Steve's back, I think.
Yeah, I'm back.
Somewhat.
Voted. I'm going to wander around the House of Commons now until I find a quiet corner.
So
Marvellous, what a bonus.
This is brilliant, guys. You pay £2-3 entry fee and you're getting a free tour of the House of Commons.
Yeah.
Done.
Yeah.
Yeah, I got more books than the usual YouTuber. Yeah. I really hope there's. Oh, hang on. Can you see who that is?
Sound.
Celebrity.
It's Margaret Thatcher.
Yeah. We're confident that Britain won't become authoritarian, but are you afraid of certain governments crossing the line in the name of public health, like, say, in Australia?
I mean, we've seen what's happened in Wales in the last couple of weeks, where this tin pot little wants-to-be dictator, Mark Drakeford, who came from absolutely nowhere. He's on the Corbyn wing of the Labour Party and found his way to being First Minister of Wales just a year and a half ago or so. And he's taken it upon himself to sort of impose the most ridiculously draconian restrictions on people, to the extent that you can't go out and buy a book in a shop because it's deemed to be non-essential, to the extent that you can't go out and buy children's clothing because it's deemed to be non-essential. I mean, this is the kind of tin pot authoritarianism that goes to some leaders' heads, and that is something that does need to be called out wherever it happens.
I mean, it's a devastating situation that the whole world is in. Of course, it's legitimate to constrain the liberty of the individual for the protection of other people, but what we've just experienced is just how genuinely terrifying it can be to watch how fast and how hard liberties are stripped in the face of a pandemic. And whether they're proportional or not is starting to become a matter of opinion. You know, I listened to Sir Graham Brady tonight speak on this very point, very passionately, and I think I agreed with everything he said, and then Charles Walker likewise.
I think one of the interesting things to point out about this is I know that students aren't the only ones who have it hard. You know, large, vast areas of the population are being affected by this. There's no doubt about it. But I think one of the problems that I'm having currently with the government is how the government is championing unis for being open, when in my experience that is absolutely not the case. How can you call a uni open when our university is giving us strict instructions not to come to campus? How can you call a university open when I'm not getting a single in-person lesson out a week? I haven't had a single one since I've been here, and obviously fees do remain the same, which is a whole nother kettle of fish. But at the moment, all I can see is a grim future with limited economic prosperity. The job market's not looking great for young people, so let's just hope for that vaccine, I guess.
Just to clarify, guys, I literally planned this night. I had all the 4 segments, and the final segment was freedom, and I actually planned to go to Emily last, so she give us some sort of positive mass and optimism. She gave us the most gloomy message ever.
Oh, how very 2020.
I know.
So maybe we can have some positivity.
On that note, I want to say massive thank you to all of you guys that came tonight, but also all the viewers who have been obviously signed up, registered, helped us raise money. I think we raised, as Lacey said, how much was it?
Over 1,500. We've still had donations coming in during the live stream, but yeah, £1,500.
Brilliant.
And growing. Yeah.
Absolutely perfect. So yeah, let's keep going, guys, and thanks again to all the guests, and I will see you guys in the next video. Well, I hope you enjoyed the highlights, and it was definitely, for those of you who actually did make it, it was a really interesting show. A number of things happened, including Adam Afriya, the MP, who hijacked the whole show and took Steve Baker's laptop. So I hope you enjoyed that. Thanks again to everyone who's been supporting the charity, but also this channel so far. And I'll come back tomorrow with the latest update. Until then, I'm Tousi, and I'll see you guys in the next video.